Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Majors. I'm the Director of Employment and Training Programs at DEED. So glad to have you participate in, I believe, our fourth panel around youth employment services and development. We have a great panel here today, a lot of experts, and we have some participants. And we're going to have a really robust conversation around youth, continuing our conversation about youth employment and development services. We progressed a great deal from the initial one, the initial roundtable we had a few months ago, and today we're talking about. I think we're starting to get into the meat of the services that we provide, and that our providers provide, and really how do we kind of work with our youth? For employers, it's really the investment into the future of the pipeline and their workforce, and I think that's going to be a lot of the conversation today. I was kind of thinking back in preparation for today's roundtable, is kind of thinking about my experience. And I remember when I had my entrepreneurial experience of, the babysitting and, the moving snow and cutting grass, but it was kind of missing something. And I think it was missing, that kind of connection to a mentor and that kind of that development piece. And that's so critical that a lot of our providers, provide to our youth. And so, I'm really excited to hear the conversation from this panel. Before I hand it over to Corey Schmidt from our TU team, I want to just kind of talk about something that we have really awesome that's coming out, and I think we're going to put it in the chat, is that we have this employer toolkit that we want to unveil. And in that toolkit, it is a listing of our youth service providers, our programs around DEED-funded STEM projects for youth, some information about how to create a high quality job description. There's more information about how to structure an internship program, a checklist to prepare for an intern, and planning for work projects. So it's an awesome document that we're going to put into the chat for you to have. I think it will be useful to not only employers, but also to some of our providers as well, even though we got the information from our providers. And so hopefully it'll be useful to you. So before I turn it over to Corey, I want to just kind of turn it over to Anna Peterson, who's been assisting us along the way to give us some housekeeping rules. Anna?
The chat, we have learned that there's a Microsoft glitch that some people who join the meeting can't see the chat at all. That's not a DEED issue, that's a Microsoft issue that they're trying to fix, but it looks like many of you are already chatting in there. So you can also chat questions in there as the conversation goes along, and I will be monitoring the chat and looking for your questions and asking them as we go. So I did put the toolkit link in the chat, and let's get rolling. Corey, over to you.
Thank you, Anna and Mark. We're going to go ahead and introduce the panelists we have. So I'm going to first start with Southwest Minnesota Private Industry Council. So we do have Carrie Bendix, who is the Executive Director. We have Ariane Ferris, who's the Youth Program Manager. And then Ariane, if you want to go ahead and introduce the folks you brought with you today, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Can everybody?
Yep.
All right, wonderful. Ariane Ferris here, Youth Program Manager with the Southwest Minnesota Private Industry Council. And with me today, I have Kelsey Belke, who is our Youth Employment Specialist out of our Worthington Career Force location. And Kelsey, I'll turn it over to you to introduce your guests.
Good morning, everybody. I have Neri Montoya Mendez. He is my student who has participated in our work experience program. And then I have Rick Van Holt with us. He is the manager at Graham Tire out of our Worthington area, who has also participated in our work experience program.
Awesome. All right, next up we have Heather Gleason, who is the director of the South Central Workforce Council. And we also have Alex Langston, who is with the Minnesota Valley Action Council, and they provide the direct services in conjunction with South Central. Alex, would you like to introduce the folks you brought with you today?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Again, Alex Langston at Minnesota Valley Mankato office. Today I have Kaylee and Natalie with me. Natalie is the executive director of Grace Thrift Store in Lake Crystal and the owner of Vagabond Village Thrift Store in Mankato. So
awesome, thank you. And just so everyone's aware and understands where these two organizations come from, but these two organizations, South Central Workforce Council, NVAC, and Southwest Minnesota Private Industry Council, make up the Regional Workforce Development Area 5 and span 23 counties, including 2 federally recognized tribal nations, the Upper Sioux community and the Lower Sioux community. And then last but not least, we have Matt Norris with Youth Prize. Matt, do you want to say hello and introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Norris. I'm the Policy Director and Director of Minnesota After School Advance at Youth Prize for a youth employment program. So I've had a lot of different experiences with youth employment. We hire youth interns at Youth Prize, and so excited to share some information I've learned over the years, and also great to see a lot of familiar names on the participant list today.
Thank you. So Ariane, we're going to jump right back to you here and get this started. So can you tell me how Southwest PIC partners with local employers to develop work experiences for youth, who have credentials, to successfully continue a career pathway opportunity?
Yeah, so the Southwest Minnesota Private Industry Council, we are staffed for our local workforce development board. And our workforce development board is the leader in career force, which, as you all know, or most of you do, that it's Minnesota's unified workforce system. We are one of the 16 workforce boards designated under the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. And our board is comprised of business and industry, workforce development, education, government, economic development, chambers of commerce, and community stakeholders. So as a leader in career force, we're dedicated to providing a diverse and quality workforce that really meets the needs of our employers and the challenges we face here in Southwest Minnesota. But based on our local economy, younger workers of different races and those from other countries are going to include a high rate of our workers here in Southwest Minnesota. Based on our local economy, yeah, they'll include the fastest growing segment of our labor force. Access and opportunity for our students is necessary. They have powerful potential, our youth do. They're sitting on a wealth of skills, talents, and abilities that are needed to fill our current and future job vacancies. With few people moving to the region, we are dependent on our high school graduates flowing into the workforce. So the Private Industry Council works with employers to develop work experiences for youth who have credentials to successfully enter and continue a career pathway by working alongside the employer to develop what the position will look like, what the tasks and duties are going to be held, determining the appropriate guidance needed for that individual student. We also want to ensure safety for the student and compliance for the employer. We act as an intermediary connecting business and education daily to support our employers and our students, so that make sure that we're enhancing their work experience opportunity. We really want it to be successful for all parties. So to make this happen, a lot of intentional relationship and trust building with our local employers is necessary. We've been developing these relationships for over 35 years, and we continue to develop new ones. The relationships and networks really contribute to a wealth of information that typically surfaces as to how an employer can increase or integrate work experience opportunities for young people. So much of our work is customer focused. So we're building work experiences based on students' interests and abilities while matching them to the employers that we have built experiences upon already, or those that are looking to build upon new opportunities with new employers. So on the employer side, we're genuinely concerned about the liability, the employee safety, and the capacity to make sure that it's successful for all parties. So we work very closely with the employer to ensure that experiences are developed in accordance with all the necessary employer laws, that safety and training are delivered and implemented. And then we're there throughout the duration too to support if any issues do arise with the student or the work site. But before we usually will place an individual with the work site, we do put a lot of emphasis into our work readiness skills that are provided one-on-one with the students prior to that placement, because we want to really make sure that they're prepared to engage with the employer. They understand what is expected of them while they're at work. And they also want to make sure that, you know, again, I can't say it enough, just making sure that success is there for all parties. And in addition, most often to the work readiness skills, often our students are going into the work sites with credentials such as OSHA 10, nursing assistant, welding, and CDL, just to name a few.
Great, thank you, Ariane. So taking that, we're gonna jump to Rick to kind of talk about his side of things, the employer side, and how working with Southwest PIC has been successful. So Rick, I wonder if you could speak to kind of the factors that contributed to Graham Tire working with Southwest PIC and hiring on a youth participant.
Well, it does date quite a few years back anyways. I'm in my 29th year at Graham Tire, and when I was, I'd left for about 4 years anyways, but let's say about 15 years ago, we had a couple of employees that we had gotten from the program, and we ended up hiring one of the guys, well, actually both of them full-time. And I believe one of the gentlemen has gone on to be a district or regional manager for a tire company anyways. So he started somewheres, and I'm just excited to where we can have some youth anyways, starting with these skills more so than being a college graduate and having probably over credentials for some of the workforce that's out there, you know, because we're having trouble finding people now in the tire industry or the workforce that we've got, you know, for working on vehicles, mounting, dismounting tires, you know, and there's still, there's some level of customer service as well, you know, so you're still meeting and greeting customers as well as the employees on a daily basis, and working safely with power tools. You know, you got hoists and impact guns, jacks and stuff like that, you know. So I've got a couple of guys that, you know, oversee our current staff, you know, for what we've, Kelsey had presented to us, you know, and we had a couple gentlemen, and one of them he probably had to concentrate on his school a little bit more than the work. So we're down to one out of the two people anyways, but we're pretty fortunate to have Neary working for us anyways. He does a good job for us.
Great, yeah, and maybe you could also speak to, you know, what is for your business, what's the benefit of having a young person?
Well, with that, you know, for one thing, our hiring process, we have to do background checks. So they don't have the opportunity to do anything wrong right now as far as driver's license and so forth that way, you know. So yeah, you kind of get a foot in on that anyways, because anymore the insurance companies are almost dictating on who we can hire, you know, just for the fact of the liabilities that are out there, you know. Just so, you know, it's a tough world anyways, you know. And but with that, you know, still teaching kids when they're still wanting to learn as well, you know, so they're probably a lot easier to absorb some of the new teachings, training anyways, you know, because they're wanting to, versus somebody having to find a job, you know, and not wanting to be there, you know. So you're finding that the kids want to be here, you know, and they want to work.
Great, yeah, thank you. Definitely touched on the career pathways piece there of kind of the on-the-job training, getting young people those skills they need to continue on the pathway. And I guess speaking of young people, let's have Neary. Let's hear from you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've enjoyed about working at Graham Tire?
Yeah, I'm Neary Montoya. I'm from here, Warrington, Minnesota, and I'm 18 years old. And yeah, the thing I've enjoyed is that I get to experience, like, I got to see, like, whether I would like it or not. And so far, I've been liking it a lot. Like, I didn't know much when I came in, but, like, now I've learned how to dismount, mount tires. I know how to do the mower tires. I know how to repair them, how to put in a jack, how to torque them, and what torque to use. Yeah.
That's great. So maybe you can also speak to why having an opportunity like that to learn on the job is important for you.
For me, it's an important because if I go into a career field and I don't seem to like it when I'm there, then it seems like a waste of time. But right now I'm into something that I really like, so I've been enjoying it a lot. I like showing up all the time. I really like missing a single day.
Good, good. It's really good to hear. All right, well, we'll circle back to you all towards the end, but we're gonna move ahead and go to South Central. So Heather and or Alex, we asked you to be on here to talk about kind of the younger youth population that the DEED youth programs focus on. So Southwest PIC, we had them talk about the older youth who kind of have those credentials and are ready to move into a career pathway. So yeah, Alex or Heather, if you want to talk about in what ways can employers support younger youth who maybe don't have prior work experience but need that kind of that first job to get them started.
Sure. Well, we're always excited to work with youth at any age, whether it's 14, 15, 16, or even 21, 22, 23. It is a little bit more of a challenge, obviously, working with some individuals that are in that 14, 15-year-old age range because there's just not many opportunities for them out there. I know in Mankato, at least, really the only options for someone that's that age is McDonald's and Culver's. And not to give, throw any shade at them, they're great opportunities. However, it's very limited. So with our work experience program, we can actually take interests into mind and connect them with businesses and organizations that will actually give them some more valuable experience if they're not interested in doing, cooking or meal prep, those types of things. We can find them places like thrift stores where they can learn a little bit more about retail and sales and displays and those types of things. And obviously, too, when we work with some of those younger individuals, they don't necessarily have those skills that employers are always looking for. Sometimes we get creative with them and say, have you shoveled snow before? Have you babysat before? Have you, mowed lawns? And what transferable skills can we take from some of those experiences and utilize those in a job setting? So we can get creative with that and definitely, encourage youth that if maybe there's not many work opportunities for you at this point in time, what can you be doing for volunteering too? Because again, that's going to develop a lot of really good skills. So again, we're really lucky to have some great work sites that are willing to take youth that are a little bit younger because again, that's a really good age for those youth to make a good impression on them, when they're 14, kind of just getting into 9th grade, just getting into 10th grade. We don't have to wait until senior year to start developing some of those skills. We want to do it as early as possible. And I think our employers and work sites know that. So that's, again, how we get creative with working with some of those work sites in our area.
Thank you. Yeah, and Natalie, maybe you, from the employer side, maybe you can speak to kind of what prompted you to work with MVAC in South Central to have young people working there.
I've been working with you guys for probably like 10 years now, and I have worked with a lot of youth, mainly out of my own heart project of always being very wild, lots of ideas. No one knew what to do with me and never had an opportunity because I didn't have work experience. But I had a lot of life experience that never seemed to be accounted for. So I liked the idea of the program and kind of what I wanted to bring to the community by working with youth and giving them opportunities to embrace their inner, drive to be different and to chase after things that maybe they don't know about, but they want to learn about. And I wanted to be part of not holding them back from that, but really just giving them a platform to practice it. So with my dual internships that I offer, where they can work at a nonprofit to learn what it takes to run a nonprofit and all the things and different directions you can go in that, as well as the for-profit business where they learn how to be an entrepreneur and if you want to work for yourself and what that looks like. I've been able to kind of intermingle all of these different skills like janitorial work all the way down to, customer service to, just basic hosting. And they're being able to tap into all of these different sides of themselves to kind of give them a launch board to see what direction they want to go into after they leave the program with me and with MVAC.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Kelly, I'll switch it over to you, but yeah, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you enjoy about working at the thrift store.
Yeah, well, my name's Kaylee. Sorry.
Oh, Kaylee, sorry.
No, you're fine. Can you restate the question?
Yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've enjoyed working at the thrift store.
Sorry, a little stressful here. I'm 18 years old. I've worked for NVAC for about a year now.
Close to a year, yeah.
Almost a year now. My first experience was at Echo Food Shelf down in Mankato, which I really did enjoy. That it was very hands-on and learning how to help other people in the community that needs help. Then now I work at Vagabond Village and also #Grace. One thing that I enjoy about Vagabond is that not just her, but the customers are very not really helpful, but they are helpful, but they are very encouraging and enjoy the store and the presence of how well us, our workers, and how organized and how welcoming the store is. I do enjoy having Natalie teaching me learning where everything is, learning how to cashier and all that fun stuff. So it's one thing I enjoy.
Great, thank you. And what do you hope to do after working at the thrift store? What do you want to move into?
Well, I'm not really having to set plans, but my hope is to actually go back and volunteer for Natalie. Not just, I really enjoyed so much that I want to go back and just help volunteer with my time. Even if I don't get paid for it, that's fine. I just want to give my time and efforts towards Natalie and the community.
And my goal is to help her figure out what she wants to do with that time and figure out how she can turn it into a paid position.
Yeah.
So, but yes, there's a lot of opportunities for her and she's been embracing all of them and doing quite well with it. So I think no matter what happens after this program, the growth that I've seen from Kaylee from when she just started even to now, the confidence is so much more. She's gained more skills that she wasn't completely sure of. And now she's just out there acting like she knows it all. And it's great to see because that confidence, what she was talking about, radiates in my shop. And the people that are coming in are, what's this program about? What's going on? Which gives me ample amount of ammunition to be able to say, you should get involved because this program is amazing. So, so it's giving me a lot of opportunities to keep, letting people know how valuable it is for us to work with these youth and give them opportunities to shine because that's what's going to bring them through all this hard stuff. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Sounds like both workplaces have great informal mentorship programs going right there with you, Natalie, and Rick over at Graham Tire. So that's fantastic. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next panelist, Matt Norris. Matt, we've kind of discussed maybe more of the hands-on positions that can come with youth employment. And one of the reasons we wanted you involved is your past experience with the Summer Youth Employment Program here in the Twin Cities, which I think tends to focus more on kind of office positions and coming up with internally focused tasks. So yeah, if you could kind of touch on the need for strong, internship work plans. So employers who, set up an 8-week experience have enough for the youth to do for 8 weeks. If you could touch on that a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen kinds of different roles. The work that we did tend to focus a little bit more on kind of office positions, but we've also seen them in manufacturing roles. I've seen interns working at a nuclear power plant. I've seen interns helping with cancer research. And so overall, the thing I want to stress is, go into this expecting the interns, even high school age interns, to make a substantive contribution to your workplace. I think if you don't, you're doing a disservice both to yourself and to the intern. They always, the number one piece of feedback I hear from employers and have seen personally with the young people I've hired as interns is they more often than not exceed expectations and they say, wow, I never imagined that a high school student would be capable of doing this type of work. And so, how do you scope that work, and what should it look like? I think one of the main things that's a best practice is you try to find 1 or 2 larger substantive projects that can be the meat of the internship, that the intern can work on or the young person can work on throughout the course of that experience. And in particular, when you're thinking about that, try to reflect on what are the key transferable skills that a young person needs to know or develop to succeed in your particular industry or in your particular profession, and try to scope those projects so that they're designed to teach the young person some of those skills that are going to really propel them to future success in that work. I think then you also want to have some day-to-day kind of more administrative tasks that you can use to backfill. With those larger projects, there may be time where, they've completed one segment of it and they're waiting for feedback, or they can't immediately proceed on to the next step in that bigger project. And so having those kind of more day-to-day administrative tasks that you can backfill with is a way to continue to keep them engaged proactively. You're also going to want to think about professional development opportunities. What are the things like, tours of, different workplaces, job shadowing opportunities, informational interviews, inviting them to come and sit in on meetings with you. Those can be really enriching experiences for a young person in the workplace. Oftentimes, they don't have any previous exposure to what a workplace like that is like. And so anything that you can do to open their eyes, provide them more exposure to what it means to be a worker in that particular industry or profession is going to be a really valuable experience for them. And then I also think the important thing is to allow the intern to provide feedback on what actually is in their work plan. I typically do work beforehand and try to get it pretty well developed. But then, the first week of the experience, I'm going to sit down with that young person, kind of walk them through what I think would be a really valuable experience, but then also open it up to them and say, like, hey, are there certain things you want to really make sure you leave this experience with? Are there particular things that we've talked about that are really interesting to you, and we maybe want to beef up that part of the experience? So making sure that the young person has the ability to, within reason, kind of shape what that internship looks like as well is another really important best practice.
Great, thank you. That's great insight into that. And so I'm going to throw this question actually out to all the panelists here. But for employers who might be hesitant to hire a youth, what would be the one thing you would say to them to get them over that hurdle? Throw that to Matt, Ariane, Heather, Alex. So one thing you would tell a hesitant employer to get them over that hump to hire a youth, what would you tell them?
I guess I can just jump in. This is Heather Gleason, and I would just say that for an employer, there's oftentimes a lot of fear about hiring someone young, that they may not know how that's going to fit in their workplace or what they'll have the abilities to do. But one of the benefits of our youth employment program is really to give youth an opportunity to get their foot in the door. And it's a way for employers to test out a youth as well. So it's really a no risk to a youth. The youth program pays the wages, they cover the workers' compensation. What we're asking employers to provide is that mentoring piece, the experience, and I think it can bring great benefits to them. So it's really not a losing situation for an employer.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. I was going to mention that too. I think the fact that there's kind of that third party or that intermediary involvement too, it really helps smooth the waters for the employer and the student. So it's certainly a value added component to the work experience program.
And as an employer, there's also benefits that come along to you as the employer and to your employees. There's obviously the work that the intern can do, but one of the things I really stress is, think about, perhaps with the supervisor, identify somebody on your team who's maybe a younger employee who hasn't had an opportunity to supervise someone in the past. this could be a really good professional development opportunity for them to become a first-time supervisor. I'm doing that actually this summer. The intern we're hiring, I've got a fairly young person on my team who's new in her career. She's going to be supervising the intern this summer, so that then, you know, a year or two down the road, when it comes time for that employee to take on managing a full-time staff person, she's already got some managerial experience under her belt.
Great. And there's a couple of questions that came in the chat, and I think one that, as long as we have the time, I think would be important to cover, and this will probably go more towards Ariane and Heather as well. But working with employers to match wages to create a longer ramp for work experiences, how does that look on your end?
So we'll do that, but we wouldn't call it a work experience. It then now becomes more of an on-the-job training. And so we do that actually a lot of times because we'll have employers and students who will need each other for a longer period of time than our current funding could provide. And so those conversations happen quite often with our employers to make sure that we can accommodate their needs and vice versa as far as the hours that need to be worked and things. So yeah, that's a big thing. And I think even more now, sometimes it's harder to spend work experience money because employers are willing to hire straight out. At least in Southwest.
No, I agree, Ariane. That's what I was going to mention. I think what happens most often in South Central is that a youth does a great job at their work experience and the employer wants to hire them outright. So sometimes the work experience ends sooner because they want to put them on their own payroll instead. So it is a great way to test out youth, and employers have needs for workers too. So this is a great way to funnel that.
Yeah, and so the other question is kind of focused on the support services that are provided. And so DEED youth programs do have funding streams within them that can provide support services. So maybe, again, this might be more Heather and Ariane focused, but can you talk about kind of the support that's offered in the programs to help young people get their driver's licenses? That's a pretty critical thing for many positions.
Yeah, so certainly if that is a barrier to getting the student to and from their work experience or even school for that matter, because as part of our program, we want to make sure that if they are in school, they are attending regularly and working towards that high school diploma. So yeah, I mean, if it fits within the realm of their employment plan that we do develop with them prior to entering and during and after the work experience, and it fits and it needs it, I mean, absolutely, and the dollars are available, you know, if it's going to eliminate a barrier and make it successful, then yeah, we will help with the driver's license or bus passes or mileage reimbursement, whatever fits that student's needs.
And likewise, that's the same in South Central. So I don't know, Alex, you might have other things to add on the support services that are provided.
Yeah, and we were actually just kind of talking about how we spend some training dollars, some support dollars, and obviously the work experience dollars. But again, what's going to help them be more successful? The youth, you know, obviously going back to school, furthering their education, getting their GED, which we were just mentioning, are some of those things those training dollars are going for. But for support dollars is how are they going to maybe get to work? How are they going to get to school? How are they going to access those online classes? So we helped someone just this past winter get a laptop so they could go back to school, because you know you can't take college classes on your cell phone. You know, and for some cases it was like, you know, well, I have a laptop, but internet's so expensive, or the internet service provider that I have just isn't, you know, good enough. You know, it's so slow, it's so frustrating. You know, we need to have a better access to internet. So those are other things that our support dollars go to. And even in Kaylee's instance, you know, having to drive to Lake Crystal from Mankato, you know, gets expensive. Your truck has what, 40-gallon tank and gets 10 miles to the gallon. So gas can be a barrier. So providing some gas vouchers. So again, it's not so much of a burden, and all that paycheck's going right into a fuel tank. You're able to spend some of that money in other places, like your cell phone bill, or maybe even save up money so then you can, get your own apartment someday. So, those little $25 here and there, it doesn't seem like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it does add up.
Great. Thank you. Well, we're getting a little close on time, but I wanted to bring up the employer toolkit for youth jobs and internships. So I believe Anna had put that link in the chat. I don't know if Anna, you want to send that one more time, make sure people have it. But that is developed by Deed and borrows some tools from the Step Up program in the city of Minneapolis, and also Right Track from the city of St. Paul. Within there, you'll also find all the contact information for the workforce development areas located all throughout the state of Minnesota. So information for Heather and Carrie Bendix will be in there for South Central and Southwest PIC. So those you can access. And then there's also a couple pages on programs from funded by Deed that are STEM focused, if that's something you and your organization is interested in exploring more for the youth. But we definitely want you to check that out. And then I believe there's also a link to Deed's Office of Youth Development's youth resources as well. So some of the things there are more maybe the technical pieces of hiring a youth, could be a work experience assessment, skills assessment, those kinds of things, employer toolkits. I mean, those are all coming from and developed by workforce development area professionals as well. So from the ground up. So we want to make sure you all have those at your fingertips. So I don't know, Mark, do you have anything else before we start to sign off?
I'm not sure. Just wanted to make sure and check with Anna. Were there any other questions that were in the chat box?
No, Corey asked the two that I saw in the chat, and if there's other questions, people can write them in the chat, or I think we have a few minutes if people want to unmute and just ask a question that's on their minds. We can do that as well.
I think in this meeting, Anna, they'll have to raise their hand and then we can unmute them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. The chat might be easier, but please ask your questions while we have still a few minutes.
I'll ask a question while we're here, because I kind of led with it. It was my experience, kind of like I said, the babysitting and the mowing lawns. How do you take that youth who's has so much energy and is really wants to move forward and has a lot of entrepreneurial spirit? What do you do with that young person, and then match them up with employers? So I'll throw that out to the panelists.
So in the past, we do a lot of work with like junior achievement. They have a really great curriculum where we can work with students on kind of what that business plan might look like, what to consider, what to think about. We have a super relationship with our Small Business Development Center, and so we send students over there who are actually on our campus of Southwest Minnesota State University. So we'll send students there and they'll work with students and kind of guide them through that. We actually just recently, through our Know Before You Go campaign, which is some easy to read labor market infographics that we distribute to students and parents, we just recently created an entrepreneurship comparison that compares social entrepreneurship to traditional entrepreneurship. So we can have those as talking pieces for our students and clients who are full of energy and definitely have an entrepreneurship spirit. So those are just some that I can think of right off the top of my head, but in the past too, just connecting them with our small business owners. And our small business owners love that because what a great sustainability plan for them. So that's a little bit what we do in Southwest.
Yeah, we came up with some stuff here too, and basically, you know, when we get a youth that has a lot of energy and a lot of passion and they're excited about something, I think it's still important for us to break it down for them and say we still have to start somewhere. You know, we still have to, you know, have that foundation and work our way up. And Natalie does a really good job with this with her youth that come through. Is that, and she was just explaining, you know, kind of let them try the job out first and see what they kind of know, and you know, after kind of that observation, then maybe suggest different ways of doing it or more efficient ways of doing it. And sometimes going back and having to break things down. So then that way they can continue to grow and improve on those things.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And sometimes that extra energy too, just giving up, like whenever I get students that have that kind of energy they bring to the table, it gets my wheels spinning because, you know, as a business owner, there's a million things to do. So what can I do with that energy of theirs? Mm-hmm. You know, like what direction can we put you in to see, you know, what you do with that? Because a lot of times they have something in them, they just don't know what to do with it. So I'll be like, oh, we have an event coming up. So you just became in charge of it. Let's see what happens. And then that gives them a chance to be like, whoa. And then they get to, you know, kind of go through all of the steps and explore. And that energy kind of starts to balance out, you know. Sure. And the same thing, coming very confident, thinking they know everything. Well, we let them do it one way and then we bring them back around to show them that there's lots of different ways to do it. And it's all about being efficient with time, energy, and money. And by the end of each internship, I really do feel like they all get that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that speaks to the, in both cases, the kind of the ability to kind of to just change. Matt talked about it a little bit, right? You start changing depending on what's going on with that young person. So the importance of actually looking at that young person, understanding what their needs are, doesn't just stop at when you hire them. It's a continuous process throughout the time that they're with you. And I think, that's actually kind of rewarding, you know, to see that person's growth too during that time. So I really appreciate that. Before we sign off, is there any last comments from anyone or Corey?
No, I would just say thank you to all the panelists for providing your insight on this important topic and imparting your knowledge on all of us. I think I'd speak for everybody on this call, but we wish Neri and Kaylee the best of luck moving forward on their career pathways. Yeah, so again, thank you all.
Yeah, thanks everyone. This has been a great panel and it's very rewarding. Please check out the Toolkit. That's I have to do my pitch day. Check out the Toolkit for your employers. It's awesome. And thanks to Jen Gates and her team for putting it together. It's a great tool. And then we'll look out for our next panel coming up next month. Everyone enjoy your day. Stay safe. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.